This is the 2020 Mitsubishi Pajero, though you may not be able to tell at a glance since it was last updated in 2014 and hasn't had any sheet metal work done since 2006. Dig a little deeper and the Pajero traces its underpinnings back to the turn of the century, which either makes it ancient or iconic. The car you're looking at here is a Pajero GLS, and as part of a revised range, it's now the flagship in a 2-variant lineup for Australia, priced from $56,990 drive away. Aside from picking your trim level and colour, there's not much else to worry about. There's only one engine, a 3.2 litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel, and one transmission, a 5-speed automatic. To get that grunt to the ground, Mitsubishi uses Super Select 4-wheel drive, which gives the option of running in 2 or 4-wheel drive on-road, as well as high and low-range 4x4 modes with a lock centre diff for off-road use. Instead of the usual ladder frame underpinnings typical of the segment, Mitsubishi uses monocoque construction reinforced by what it calls an integral frame built in. There's independent suspension front and rear, designed to strike a good balance between on-road manners and respectable off-road articulation. It's certainly no spring chicken, but I reckon the 4th generation Pajero still looks pretty good, and certainly more off-roader than soft-roader. There's not a lot of rounded edges, the bonnet's high and the front is upright, but amongst its more recent additions, it has picked up a pair of chrome fangs. Elsewhere around the body, if you've seen a Pajero in the last 10 years, you'll be familiar with things like plastic body cladding, a tailgate-mounted spare wheel, and chrome taillights. With all 3 rows of seats up, there isn't a lot of luggage space, but that's okay, because this 3rd row folds flat into the floor. But doing so isn't too easy. Watch. Once they're out of the way, there's 1,069 litres of luggage space, which is much more generous. If you need to load more cargo than people, drop the 2 rear rows and you'll find 1,789 litres at your disposal, or just over 1.4 metres of load length. If you plan on using the 3rd row, there's not a lot of room back here. Because it folds into the floor, the seat's really compact and, well, there isn't any leg room, so adults aren't going to want to spend much time back here. Despite being bigger in every dimension on the outside than the smaller Pajero Sport, inside, things aren't so good. Certainly there's plenty of legroom, but the middle row seat is quite short and really rather low. That's why Mitsubishi provides a backrest that's adjustable for angle, which means you can find the right comfort for longer trips on the road. Rear seat passengers also get their own fan booster controls and roof level air vents, but as far as creature comforts go, that's about it. The Pajero really shows its age up front, although everything is put together pretty solidly. It's nicer than ute-based SUVs inside, but there's not a lot of gadgets. It seems that the Pajero favours proven durability. There is tilt adjustment for the steering wheel, but no reach adjustment. And if you peer in at the gauges, you'll see there's no digital displays, just regular gauges. However, there is a permanent reminder of what the 4-wheel drive system is up to. The climate control is only single zone. You get auto operation of lights and wipers, and you do get a full bank of controls on the steering wheel, but previous wood trims that were available in the Top Exceed trim aren't available anymore. Power adjustable heated seats add a touch of luxury up front, however the trim material is only part leather and the rest is cloth. To find out more of what the vehicle is up to, you can use this LCD display. It's not overburdened with info, but fills in some of the gaps in the trip data. Beneath that, there's a 7-inch touchscreen. It's loaded with Bluetooth, AM/FM radio, and smartphone mirroring for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. There's no built-in sat-nav or CD player, which might not seem like a big deal, but if you forget to preload your maps or load on some music and find yourself a long way from radio or data signals, you could be in for a long game of I Spy. Given the age of the Pajero, it probably comes as no surprise that technological advancements are few and far between. For instance, you get regular cruise control, but not the adaptive kind. There's no forward collision warning, no autonomous emergency braking, no lane keep warning, and no driver fatigue detection either. You do get a reversing camera with static marker lines, rear park sensors, HID headlights with auto high beam, a self-dimming mirror, stability and traction control, plus front seatbelt pretensioners. The Pajero was last tested by ANCAP in 2011, and back then it got a 5-star rating. That's despite markdowns for things like excessive pedal intrusion and a footwell rupture, increasing the risk of driver injury. It also scored poorly for pedestrian protection. If the Pajero were retested today, it'd be ineligible for a 5-star score due to its lack of accident avoidance tech. The Pajero is testament to how far cars have come over time. That's not to say it's a bad thing, it's just that there's a lot of off-road capable vehicles that now reach what was essentially a bit of a class benchmark in its day. It's certainly comfortable, I'll give it that, riding out rough roads and keeping occupants isolated. It's also quiet and well insulated. Perhaps not perfect, but certainly well and truly up to the task of covering long distances in comfort. The technology under the bonnet isn't exactly cutting edge. Largely the same as it was when it was introduced in 2002, albeit slightly more powerful now. The 3.2 litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine only produces a moderate 141 kilowatts at 3,800 RPM and 441 newton metres at 2,000 RPM. That's still competitive, but not class leading. The great thing about this engine though is that it never feels like it's working hard. Yes, it's leisurely to get up to 100 k's an hour, but it's just unfussed whether it's empty or fully laden. Similarly, the 5-speed auto never breaks a sweat. It has adaptive learning that Mitsubishi calls IVEX 2, which means it can learn from driver inputs and the terrain it's on to make sure it's always in the right gear. There's also the option to control gears manually too, should you want to take control. If the need for adventure strikes, heading off-road is no fuss either. The Super Select 2 4-wheel drive system is a breeze to operate. There's low range and a rear diff lock for when the going gets tough. Plus, from factory, the Pajero GLS rolls on all-terrain tyres and has 225mm of ground clearance. If you are thinking of buying a Pajero, it might pay to get in while you can. Mitsubishi Australia won't tell us when the Pajero is set to come to an end, but it's already been discontinued in markets like Japan, the UK, and most of Europe, which means time for this Pajero is limited. Although the Pajero may not be the most high-tech or fully featured vehicle available, it stands on its reputation, which makes it just the thing for carrying out tens of thousands of kilometres of trouble-free cross-country touring. Who knows? If the Pajero does manage to live on, it may well join heroes like the Land Rover Defender and the Mercedes-Benz G-Class in the 4x4 Hall of Fame. Except in this instance, without the rugged and rough edges that define those long-running off-road legends.